Hello, and welcome to this lesson in quantitative reasoning. This is part one of two videos where we look at converting logic statements to English. So, in this video, we're going to look at converting logic statements to English. In the second part, we will continue to do that, but we'll use the conditional and the biconditional statements. Here, we're just going to look at using the and, or, and not connectives primarily. So we're going to learn to represent and or not in symbolic form. And then in the next part of the video, we'll look at conditional and biconditional statements. So we represent statements with symbols, letters typically. And then the things that connect them are symbols. So P and Q are two symbol statements. We could use and to combine them, and we'd say P and Q. And that would look like this. There's your symbol for and. It almost looks like an A. You got to draw a line across and you get an A. If I want, and this is called a conjunction. Con in some, I think I took enough Spanish, I think it is, to learn that con meant with. So P with Q is true, is what the and means. So it's true when this statement P and Q is only true if both P and Q are true. So if I say 2 is an even number and 5 is an even number, that statement's not true because 5 is not an even number. They both have to be true. Either side of that and has to be true for the whole statement taken together to be true. So here's some other examples. The number 2 is even as P. The number 7 is odd as Q. Now, individually, this is a true statement, and this is a true statement. Remember, even numbers are divisible by 2 without a remainder, and they end in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. Odd numbers have a remainder of 1 when you divide them by 2, and they are numbers that end in 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. So 2 is even and 7 is odd. You should know those definitions of even and odd. That should not be news to you. So I see this symbol here, and I read and in my head. I need to learn that that means P and Q. And this would stand for the number 2 is even and the number 7 is odd. You could also say, but. That makes sense in this context in English because they're saying two different things about two different numbers. That also means and. In the word however also means and. So we use the connective or to mean different things. This one's a little more confusing as far as knowing when a statement joined with or is true because we use it slightly differently in English than we do in math here. If somebody at the school tells you you pay your tuition or you'll be withdrawn from school, you think that, okay, if I pay my tuition, that's one choice. I'll be all set. You think the other thing won't happen, which should be the case. If you pay your tuition, you should not be withdrawn from school. But this is what we call an exclusive or. It means either one of these is going to be true, but not both. So, in other words, it means if you don't pay your tuition, you definitely will be withdrawn from school. Or if you pay your tuition, you definitely won't be withdrawn from school. Both of those things could not happen. That's not quite the way we use the or statement in this class or in math in general. This would be called an exclusive or. In this course, we use an inclusive or. So I could say the number 4 is even or the number 7 is odd, and that would be true. Both sides of this or. This is a compound statement. Because the number 4 is even is one part of it, the number 7 is odd is the other part. True or true, this is taken to be true. You don't say that's false because they were both true. The number 4 is even or the number 6 is odd. 4 is even, 6 is not odd. This is also true, even though only one of them is true. So for an or statement to be true, one of them must be true, and if they're both true, that's fine also. We call that an inclusive or. It includes the case where both are true. So in an and statement, your compound statement would only, if this were and instead of or in this top one here, the top one would be true. If it were and down here, the bottom one would be false because they would both be expected to be true. If they're both true in an or, it's still also true here. We call that an inclusive or. So, and this is also called a disjunction. You can look at them individually, but also together they could both be true. So the symbol for and was like an upside down V, and you could draw a line through it, make an A. The symbol V, this is a big V, represents or. Either or both are true if you use the or. So if P denotes the statement, Joe eats French fries, and Q denotes the statement, Mary drinks soda, then P or Q denotes the compound statement, Joe eats French fries or Mary drinks soda. And Joe could be eating French fries and Mary could be drinking soda, and that would still be true. Or Joe could be eating French fries and Mary could be drinking water or drinking nothing, and this would still be true. Only one of these needs to be true for the whole statement to become true in an or. But they can both be true for it to be true. Other symbol we should be familiar with by now is this, we call it a tilde. It's actually on your computer keyboard. It's next to the one on the left. You need a shift key to get to it. It's the negation of P. We can negate statements in numerous ways. We've kind of talked about this before a little bit. If I say statement P is the number 2 is even, that means not P. When I put the negation front, it means it's not true that the number 2 is even. Or it is false that the number 2 is even. We see that it is false that a lot of times when we have compound statements that are negated. They start with it is false that, and that means that what comes next goes in parentheses. Or we could just plain say the number 2 is not even. I'm guessing most of you would pick this third one. So let's look at, are these truly negations, all of them? Well, the number 2 is even is a true statement. It is not true that the number 2 is even is a false statement because it's true. It is false that the number 2 is even is false because it's not false. It's true. And the number 2 is not even is also false. So the other thing, instead of saying not even, you could use a word that represents the opposite of even, and that word would be odd. I could have said the number 2 is odd. Doesn't have the word not in it, but it would still be a negation of the number 2 is even. So these connective symbols you should know. You should know these. I know it's easy to mix up the and the or, but my suggestion is if you can't remember which it is, remember the and one, you can draw a line through it and it looks like an A. If you draw a line through this, it does not look like an A, so it's not and. Okay? So we are going to take a look here at representing some more statements with symbols. It is not yet 10 a.m. I tend to like to write my statements. So I would have said it is already 10 a.m. I like to write them in the affirmative, but here the not is included in our statement. So if it is after 10 a.m., we're saying not P. Q, they are eating. So it is not yet 10 a.m. and they are eating. So that's both of these statements straight out. So that's going to be P and Q joined with an and. It is not yet 10 a.m. Okay, so P is true. So we just see P, but they are not eating. The word but means and. So I'm still using an and, not Q. They are not eating. So that is how I would translate those. You have to read and see what's here and compare it to what's here. If it's the same thing, you just write the statement. If it's not the same thing, like in the case with Q, so we had they are not eating and they are eating. So that time I had to write a not Q. Okay, so that is how you translate from English to symbols. You've had your symbols identified for you here. The and you should know is this, and the but is also this. And you just, instead of writing all those words now, you can write these symbols. Okay, now let's take a look at another example. Again, they did use the not as part of this statement here as not yet 8 a.m. I would have said it is past 8 a.m. or something and then made it is not yet 8 a.m., not P, but the text seems to be doing it this way. And Q is they are sleeping. So what if I want to write they are not sleeping? Well, which statement is that? That's statement Q. And this has a not and this does not, so this must be not Q. It is after 8 a.m. Okay, not yet. After is not is the opposite of not yet. So this is not P. Or they are sleeping. They are sleeping was Q. So it's not P or Q. So that is how we would do that. Once you get the hang of this, it really doesn't take long. So I need you to work on the and or not translations. And in the next part 2 of this lesson, I will do conditional and biconditional. Okay, thank you for joining. See you in class.